Britt Baker recently shot on CM Punk, his tenure with the company, his departure from the company, and much, much more. And in this video, we're going to break down exactly what she had to say, because Britt Baker is she's a pinnacle of AEW in a lot of aspects. She is the face of the women's division, even though she is not the current champion. Even though, as the recording of this video, she hasn't even been on television in 2 months, with a lot of people thinking she's going to be the devil. And whether or not she is remains to be seen. But with CM Punk, he is a polarizing name in the wrestling business, right? Whether it was the way he conducted his business in WWE, whether it was the way that he exited WWE, whether it was the way that he handled himself in AEW, and the way that he exited AEW. You cannot tell CM Punk's story without AEW, because it's a large part of his career if you think about it in the grand scheme of things. Once beloved figure in wrestling, with fans across the world eagerly and hopingly wanting him to return to wrestling. And that happened in 2021 when he joined All Elite Wrestling. CM Punk was a guy that Tony Khan, AEW president, had really tried to go after. He tried to go after him when they first launched in 2019. And CM Punk, rightfully so, was a little cautious of it, because as he said in the past, we in the wrestling business has always heard, rumors of, okay, we got a money mark over here. He's going to launch a promotion. He's got a TV deal, etc. Tony Khan did not have a TV deal when he first launched. They eventually got one with Warner Bros. Discovery and on TNT and TBS. And fast forward to the summer of 2021, Punk returned, drew their biggest pay-per-view buy rate at All Out, and was pushed to the moon. And obviously had the all-out brawl-out with the Elite before being fired due to his backstage altercation with Jungle Boy Jack Perry. So what did Britt Baker have to say? Well, I'll tell you, because she was on Maggie and Paralov, where she discussed Punk's time with AEW and admitted that when it was all said and done, just wasn't the right fit for Punk or AEW. This is what she had to say. CM Punk coming back to wrestling was one of the most historical things in All Elite Wrestling history, and always will be. You can't take that out of the wrestling books. I'm really thankful we got to work with CM Punk. I learned some stuff from him. He always really helped. He was always really helpful and willing to work with younger talent. It didn't work out. It wasn't a fit, but it was always going to be part of the AEW story. It was just that chapter is closed now. Everyone wishes him well. We hope and think he wishes AEW well too. It didn't work out. At the end of the day, how cool was it that CM Punk was in wrestling again for AEW and got to wrestle in Chicago again? She was then asked whether or not she thinks that Punk will wrestle again. This is what she had to say. I don't know where he's at mentally. I think wrestlers always have that itch. Once it's in your blood, it's in there, and no matter how much you want it to stay away, it's hard to stay away. He came back after 7 years. I think if the time, place, and company is right, I think he would. I don't think so. I've said this numerous times in numerous videos. I do not think Punk wrestles again. And I'll tell you why. I do not think he's coming back to WWE and wrestling in a WWE ring again. I think there's too much bad blood. Now, do I think he's going to return to WWE one day? Absolutely. Heck, they brought back the Ultimate Warrior, Bret Hart, Bruno Sammartino, and more to induct into the WWE Hall of Fame. And the more that Vince McMahon furthers himself away from WWE, and the more that it's a Nick Khan, Triple H-led company, both in the boardroom and in creative, I think the chances of Punk returning and being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame one day is very, very likely. If you recall, when Punk went to the Monday Night Raw taping earlier this year, he actually spoke with Triple H, and he wanted to make amends with Triple H. He made amends with the likes of The Miz. He's open to making amends for that. Now, whether or not he was just doing that simply for leverage or whatever, I don't know. No one knows. But I can absolutely see him putting bygones be bygones and moving forward. But I don't see them necessarily letting him wrestle again. I just don't think so. And we, of course, have the speculation, well, if it's not WWE, who reportedly doesn't want Punk back in their company wrestling again, who could it be? Well, could he go to an Impact or a New Japan or wherever, an MLW even? I don't think so. NWA, none of those companies, aside from maybe New Japan, well, definitely New Japan. New Japan could afford him. But in terms of the other companies, the US based companies, I don't see CM Punk in those companies. Not only from a financial standpoint, they cannot pay him what he wants. They cannot, I don't think, really offer him anything that he would be interested in. I don't see CM Punk being a guy who necessarily wants to own a pro wrestling company or be in charge of that, although he tried to be somewhat of a locker room leader and an authority figure when he was on the AEW Collision brand. I also think a large part of that is you've gone from WWE and you've gone from AEW, and those are the two largest, not only pro wrestling companies in the United States, but they're the two largest pro wrestling companies in the world. So you're going to be working in smaller crowds. Yeah, everybody loves the fact to highlight his ROH one, but like, let's be real, he went to WWE because he needed to make he wanted to make more money on a bigger stage, on a bigger platform with a larger audience and bigger names and etc. And clearly he can't go back to ROH considering Tony Khan owns it. So I don't see him wrestling again for all of those reasons listed. And if you go back and you look at CM Punk's tenure in AEW, it was roses and sunshine for the first several months. It really, really was. His feud with MJF, and that was really the highlight of his AEW run, if you really think about it, because the more that you got into 2022, the more and more it just went south. Whether it was his issues with Hangman Adam Page, whether it was him constantly getting injured, whether it be the all-out brawl-out, he missed the majority of 2023. When he came back, he was put on a completely different brand, isolated from those who don't like him. He tried to dictate backstage politics, thus the Jungle Boy Jack Perry incident, because Jack Perry wanted to use real glass and CM Punk was trying to look out for him, but the kid wanted to be dumb. Let's be real. He wanted to be dumb and use real glass for an angle when he could have just used sugar glass or whatever, another alternative, so you won't have to get freaking stitches afterwards or get glass stuck in you. In his place, and that wasn't the right thing to do. Whether it was dictating who could or could not be backstage at collision events, and AEW, I mean, Tony Khan bent over backwards for this guy, and this guy spit in his face. Like, it's just, I don't see a reason why WB would bring him back, and for all of those reasons I've mentioned throughout this video, yes, CM Punk's AEW tenure does hurt his legacy, but I don't think it hurts his legacy as many like to think. I think for a large part of fans, they're going to think of his WWE run and, you know, and the good times in AEW. I think so. Could be wrong though.